Hey y'all, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel. So I am outside today. It's a beautiful day and I'm going to film my monthly wrap up for April. I really hope that the wind is not too much for out here. It's just a light breeze today. So we'll see. I really wanted to film outside today because it's so nice and I have an opportunity to film. So here we are. Y'all, this month I read 11 books. Who am I? Who am I? I read 11 books and I don't even know where to start. So that's the most I've read in a really long time. And I even borrowed some from the library and read 4 out of 5 that I borrowed from the library in the 2 weeks that I had it. So I'm feeling pretty good about my reading right now. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, I've got all the books out here and I'm going to do a book haul video too. So like I've literally got a haul, a literal haul of books. So I'm going to try to I should have already done this. Where are the books? Some of these I've already returned to the library this morning, so I'm not going to have those. But I have taken pictures with my phone that I'll be putting in here of them. All right, here we go. The first book that I read in April was A Girl's Guide to the Outback by Jessica Kate. This is a cute cover, isn't it? I love it. So this was a really cute read. I gave it 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. This is going to be really hard because I can't remember half of what I want to say about these books. So if you all see me looking at my notes, it's going to happen because the last time I did my wrap up, I was filming as I went and I haven't done that this time. So this is going to be crazy. Let me see okay, that's right. I did a vlog on this. I will link it if I can remember to link it in the card. Most of this book was a 3 to 3.5 star for me. I was getting distracted quite a bit, but the ending bumped it up to a 4 for me. And I really enjoyed it. Basically, Kim and Sam work together. Kim is helping Sam with his ministry, and he works with the youth. And there's a bee. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to keep that in there. All right, I know this is real life, y'all. Just trying to film, and that was a cute little bumblebee, and I got scared. All right, so where was I? Kim and Sam basically work together, and at his ministry, and they kind of butt heads back and forth because she has an idea of what she wants to do to kind of branch out for the ministry, and he doesn't agree with it. So he ends up basically leaving and going back home to Australia, and his family is having trouble on their farm. So there's a lot of details with his sister in here, and I really like that. And I loved his sister's characters. They were basically, the farm is struggling, and so he goes back to his family farm, right? So Kimberly stays behind, but then without Sam, things are not really going very well. He's not been there, and the leaders of the whole ministry are saying, look, we're going to need to get a replacement for him. If we don't, then we're going to have to look at the possibility of shutting down this ministry, and none of them want to do that. She ends up traveling to Australia to go to Sam, and they have this kind of deal where she's going to try to look at the books of the business and help with the farm and everything to kind of get the farm back on its feet and all of that stuff. And at the same time, she is really wanting to get him to come back, either come back and train the replacement or have him come back in full and just work there. So there's all this will they, won't they kind of thing. The relationship was cute. Really enjoyed how they developed in their characters. I liked his sister. Liked how they dealt with the faith content in here was good. Liked how they dealt with the struggles that they were going through. You also had at the farm when there was trouble there, of how they dealt with that, and God's plan for your life and God's timing was mentioned. So different things like that. So yeah, I really like Jessica Kate. I do have Love and Other Mistakes on my shelf, and I do plan to read that at some point. So yeah, I enjoyed this. 4 stars, and I will read more about Jessica Kate in the future. I didn't even bring this book out here. Oh well, I'm just gonna have to put a picture. The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis was the second book that I read this month, and it's the first book that I've ever read in the Narnia series. Also, this was in my vlog, I think, where I talked about The Girl's Guide to the Outback. So I really enjoyed this. Won't spend too much time on it because a lot of you already know about Narnia, but I did enjoy the biblical references in this story. It was a great starter to the world. Short version of this, you've got Polly and Diggory. They become good friends after discussing his mother being sick. They explore. They end up meeting his Uncle Andrew, who practices magic. They end up being transported to this magical land with magical rings. And everything kind of takes off from there. It's a very fun story, great adventure story, a lot of background and biblical references to creation. Really like that. Great parallels to the Bible, and I enjoyed seeing that. Like the tree, there was like Tree of Good and Evil and different references there as well. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars, did a reading vlog, and I will link that. And I really love this new adventure and cannot wait to read more by C.S. Lewis in this Narnia series. The next book that I read was Uncanceled, Finding Meaning and Peace in a Culture of Accusations, Shame, and Condemnation by Phil Robertson. I listened to this on audio, and I had originally thought that he was going to narrate the whole thing, but he ended up just narrating the first little bit, and then someone else narrated it, so I was a little disappointed in that, but overall, this was still 5 stars for me. I've never really read a Phil Robertson book, but I have listened to some of their podcast stuff that they have right now. I also really love Duck Dynasty, so there's that. They're so funny and just love their family stuff in their show, so really enjoyed it. It was a great listen. This is really a great read to remind us to set our eyes on Jesus and not of this world. He talks a lot about cancel culture. This is not really political in any way. This is biblical. This gave me a lot more to think about. I've always really liked Duck Dynasty and the Robertson family, and I really appreciate their efforts that they do to spread the gospel of Jesus. And this was just a great book about how the devil is constantly trying to work against us in so many ways. And this new kind of like basically in the new term of cancel culture. And so this just goes on to talk about how Jesus always redeems us no matter what. And do not be focused on the things of this world. Fix your eyes on Jesus. That was the main point that I got from this. Listen to it on audio. The narrator wasn't bad, but I wish it did have Phil Robertson, who was able to narrate it. But I do understand that he was not able to, so that's okay. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. The next book, I did not bring that out here either. Forever Boy. I've talked a lot about this, so I won't spend too much time. There was a vlog where I read this as well and talked about it, but Forever Boy, A Mother's Memoir of Autism and Finding Joy by Kate Swenson. Really, really like this. 5 stars, y'all. As I've mentioned several times, my son has autism, and this book was I needed this book. I just really needed this book, and at such a time in my life. Some days are harder than others. We all have our good and our bad days. But while reading Kate's journey with Cooper, I just felt validated a lot of my feelings that I've had over the past year and felt seen. And then she just shares her journey as they go through his diagnosis. And she's just a real inspiration, I think, for anyone going through this. She speaks from the heart. She's courageous to share her story with the world like this. If you don't know her, she is Kate Swenson, and her Instagram is Finding Cooper's Voice. And so this story just reminded me of finding all the joy in everyday life with our son. And I just really recommend this book to anyone who is going through that as well. So it will speak to you in many ways. It'll open your eyes throughout the whole process to find that joy. And so I really thank Kate for sharing that journey with Cooper to all of us in her journey. So the next book that I read was another nonfiction, Charles Stanley, Courageous Faith, My Story from a Life of Obedience. And I like this book. I gave it 4 stars because it took me quite a while to get through it, but overall I enjoyed it. I liked learning. It's kind of like an autobiography of Charles Stanley, and if you don't know who he is a preacher. I don't think he preaches as much anymore. He is like over in his 80s, but In Touch Ministries, I think there's a church out of Atlanta that he preaches at, and he's on TV and stuff. But I do really appreciate a lot of his sermons, and they've kind of helped me out in my faith at times. So really enjoyed that. It was kind of autobiography-ish. So it took me like 2 weeks to get through it, but I would pick it up off and on. And I think a lot of us do that with certain nonfiction reads. So yeah, it was really a great read. If you want to learn more about his life, and he talked a lot about his grandfather and different principles that his grandfather gave him in faith and in preaching, and how he became a preacher and just different things like that. So really liked that, thought that was great, and I gave it 4 stars. Next book that I read was Until Leaves Fall in Paris by Sarah Sundin. This is a 5-star read for me. This is a new favorite. of the whole year. I mean, and I have bought several Sarah Sundin books since then. Y'all will see in a book haul coming up. But anyway, this is an absolutely wonderful story of love, war, friendship, family, faith. This is a Christian historical This is a Christian historical fiction. Romances in here. I loved it so much. It's set in 1940 Paris, where the threat of Nazi-occupied Germany is looming over France, and over the characters in the story. So this is about two Americans, Lucy and Paul, and Lucy is an American ballerina, and she ends up helping a couple who has their bookstore called Greenleaf Books. They are Jewish, and the couple is Jewish, and they are trying to get away. They know that if Germany invades, that they're not going to be able to have their business any longer because they're Jewish. And so she ends up helping them to get out of there, and by giving them money to purchase the bookstore and take it over while all this stuff is going on, the World War II era. And so she helps them, and so she starts to keep this bookstore alive. She's a ballerina. She doesn't know anything about running a business, but here she is. She's going to try and learn to help her friends. She helps her friends so that they can flee to safety. So you're following like her journey of how to navigate running a business, this new bookstore, and there's these people that keep coming in, and they're trading messages, secret messages through her books, and they're like with the resistance against Germany. So that's all going on, and she's having to keep that secret and have those messages be traded back and forth to help aid the resistance against Germany. In the meantime, we also follow Paul. He is a widower who just lost his wife a year ago. They show it at the beginning, and then they kind of cut to 1 year later kind of thing. He does have a 4-year-old daughter named Josie, and I loved her. She was just wonderful. And there's a lot of great details about their relationship together. He's just such a great dad and wants the best for her no matter what. He owns an automobile shop called Aubrey's Automobiles, and he is technically part of the resistance by secret. Nobody really knows. He looks like he is helping aid Germany, but really he's sabotaging the the machines or whatever they're using. So these two characters, they made up, and everything takes off from there. I really love the relationship between Paul, Lucy, and Josie. When they first meet, there's just such a great connection between Paul and Lucy, and then Josie's in there, and it's almost like they're already a family just from day one to me. I mean, there's just everything about it was beautiful. Great family dynamic in this story. Love, like I said, love, war, friendship, family, everything about it was great. Sarah Sundin's definitely going to be my favorite author for me. There was so much that happened. It was suspenseful. The ending, I was kind of like, I got to know what happens. I was on the edge of my seat. And so the last 40% really kept me engaged. So I just think if you are a fan of Christian historical fiction, the World War II time period, Christian romance, you're going to love this. I think also one thing that I appreciate about this story is we got a perspective of a male widower with a child, and you don't get that a whole lot in books, and really appreciated that. So that was another thing. Had some great faith content as well. Yeah, this is a 5-star read for me. Sarah Sundin is a new favorite author. I think everyone should read this book. It's so good. The next book I read was a graphic novel, Lightfall, The Girl in the Galdurian. I don't know how to say it, but I know in my library book haul I said The Girl in the Guardian, and I'm like, that's not right when I was watching it after it was already posted. But anyway, yeah, Lightfall. So this was a book 1, and I think the second one may already be out. I think it was supposed to come out in April. Sorry if the wind is picking up here. I'm gonna try. Talk pretty loud, so maybe you won't notice it so much. Yeah, I think the second one's already out. I don't know 100%, but this was at the library, and I was so thankful that I was able to borrow it. I did try it on Kindle, but through my library, but when I saw that they had the physical copy, I borrowed it instead because that was a better reading experience. And this was just such a cute, I gave it 4 stars. Had really great artwork. The storyline was cute. It was clean middle grade. Kind of kept you on the edge of your seat. I really liked the characters. It was, maybe 200 and something pages. Really fast read. I think Chantel talked about this at one time from Chantel Reads All Day and really liked it. So I think a lot of people have enjoyed this, and I really want to read the second one just whenever I can get to it. I don't really read a lot of graphic novels, but this one was enjoyable and really liked the storyline. I'm going to read the quick synopsis because I'm not really good at explaining graphic novels. But deep in the heart of the planet Urpa stands the Salty Pig's House of Tonics and Tinctures, home of the wise pig wizard and his adopted granddaughter, V. As keepers of the endless flame, they live a quiet and peaceful life. They craft medicines and potions for the people of their once prosperous world. All that changes when one day, when walking through the woods, B meets Cad, a member of the Galdurians, an ancient race thought to be long extinct. Cad believes that if anyone can help him find his missing people, it's the pig wizard. But when they go home, the pig wizard is nowhere to be found, and all that's left is the endless flame jar and a mysterious note. So they fear the worst, and they try to go find him. So just wanted to read that really quick so y'all kind of know what that's about. But like I said, a cute little middle grade graphic novel. So the next book that I read was the second book in the Dust duology, or Heirs of Neverland duology, Shadow by Kara Swanson. Y'all, really like this. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I liked book 1 better than book 2. But I really enjoyed this. I think the only reason I give it 4 stars is because I got a little confused several times, like trying to figure out what was going on. And maybe it was the narration for me, but the narration was wonderful. But maybe just there was so much going on, I was having a hard time keeping up. But nevertheless, it was great. And if you don't know what Dust is about, I've talked about it several times. I have a vlog for it and all that. But that is a Peter Pan retelling in our modern world with set in London, and it's got like a mix of the world of Neverland. So this is more set in Neverland for the book 2, but book 1 was mostly in London, and they were trying to kind of get to Neverland. You have 2 perspectives. You have Claire, who is missing her brother Connor, and Connor has went to Neverland. Claire has this magical dust off her skin, and then you have Peter Pan's point of view. You get different characters from the traditional children's story, like the Lost Boys, Tiger Lily, Captain Hook, all that kind of stuff. So I would say this is not necessarily like a Christian read or anything. I think it is published by a Christian publisher, but there's no real faith in it, but it's still a great story. It's clean. Overall, really great story. This is certainly not like the classic children's tale. There's a little bit more darkness there, especially in the second book. In this one, we got a lot more of the details of what's happened in Neverland, what's happened to her brother, how are they going to fix everything, what's happened to Claire, where's Peter Pan, everybody coming together, just kind of that kind of stuff. There were a lot of extra characters added that I didn't really care for, so I wasn't sure, and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on sometimes. So like I said, that's why I gave it 4 stars. But nevertheless, I loved the ending, loved the story, really enjoyed finding out what happened to everyone and what they were going to do. And honestly, my favorite character, I think I really liked Tiger Lily. I would read an entire story about her. I wanted more of Tiger Lily in this book, I think, and that's another reason I was kind of like, well, it was great, but not 5 stars. So overall, definitely recommend reading this duology. Kara Swanson, I think if she writes any more retellings, I'd be glad to read them. I feel like she writes those very well. She really encapsulates, if that's the right word, encapsulates the world of Neverland, and I really appreciated it. So here we go. Okay, so the next 2 books I'm going to talk about together because they are both by Agatha Christie, and this is the first time I've ever read Agatha Christie. Y'all, a lot of y'all are talking about her, and I'm like, I've got to read her. So here we go. I ended up borrowing A Murder is Announced, which is a Miss Marple book number 4, and The Mystery of the Blue Train, which y'all, I butchered how to try to say this in one of my videos. I don't even know how I'm gonna say this. Hercule Poirot, I don't know, sorry, I can't say it, but I need to look it up. I can't remember. So I read The Mystery of the Blue Train first and really liked it. I think I had a hard time. The reason these were not 5 stars to me, don't get me wrong, these were great, but I have a hard time with multiple perspectives, and the way these are set up, they'll have like different perspectives for each person that I guess is like who done it, right? Like here's this one group, here's another group, and here's these others. So I feel like that's what my mind was having a hard time with, and I was getting confused sometimes, but it was okay. Once I got to like chapter 7 or 8, I was fine. So I think it's just something to get used to with reading her books. But yeah, overall great, loved it. I was invested. I needed to know what was gonna happen. Mystery on the Blue Train, that is basically about this girl who ends up dead on a train. She's going to go through a divorce with her husband. They each have their own people, so they're having affairs, I guess, with other people. But they're not happy in the marriage, but they are married. Her dad is involved as well. He buys her these really expensive jewels. Next thing you know, she's dead on the train. And you have the perspective of this other girl, Miss Gray, and you know, she's talked to the lady who died, and it just takes off from there. So they're all kind of like trying to figure out who killed this woman on the train. Was it train robbers? Was it somebody dealing with her husband and the divorce? Like all this crazy stuff. So yes, really, really enjoyed it. I never figured out who did it, but it is what it is. I mean, I was kind of close, but it is what it is. So yeah, I loved it. We have A Murder Is Announced, and I liked that. I don't know which one I like better. I think I like both of them each on their own, but A Murder Is Announced had Miss Marple, and I really liked how her character is, and how she just seems like this really smart lady and just figure everything out. I loved her. She's kind of like that side detective, because they had the primary detective, and she kind of comes in and is like, actually, you know, it's like, okay, this lady is awesome. So I like her. So I don't know which one series I want to read more of, but anyway, I'm glad you can read these as standalone. A Murder Is Announced is basically like there's an ad in the paper for, like, it sounds like a murder mystery. It says a murder is announced at this lady's house. Well, everybody starts showing up at her house. And she's like, I don't know what this is. What is this? Why are y'all here? And the next thing you know, the lights go out. Somebody's dead. And who did it? You know? So it was crazy. Really liked it. I didn't guess the ending on that one at all. So I'm not a good whodunit person. I would not make a good detective. But I still really want to read more of those books. Really do. They're really great. I mean, and I listened to I actually borrowed those from the library, and I listened to some of those on audio through Scribd, and those narrators are great. So I'm probably going to read a lot of those on narration through my library or through my Scribd membership. So yeah, overall, Agatha Christie is a win for me, and I'm going to read more of her. So definitely excited about it. Okay, we got the wind picking up. The last book that I want to talk about is Rain by Ann M. Martin. Y'all, this book, I mean, I was crying. I was so emotional. It was wonderful. This book has a character, a girl named Rose, and she has Asperger's. Now, they do say also, they kind of say interchangeably a couple of times, high-functioning autism. So from day one, I was invested in this. I wanted to read about it. This was such a sweet story about a young girl named Rose. She has a dog named Rain, which is why they call it Rain. The reason that it says Rain, R-E-I-N, and Rain, R-E-I-G-N, is because she's obsessed with homonyms. That's a lot of kids with autism or Asperger's. They have special interests. They get really involved in something and really interested in one topic. And so her topic that she is really interested in is homonyms. She keeps a running list. She, you know, like 2 T-O, 2 T-O-O, 2 T-W-O. Like, she would just keep all those running lists of that. And I found that really interesting. It is. Now, if you were to listen on audio, they'd probably be really hard because they probably spell it out or something, but reading it physically wasn't hard, too bad. I mean, at the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, there was a lot of homonyms, and they put them in parentheses when she would say, like, a word. She'd say N-O, and it'd say K-N-O-W, you know, like that kind of stuff. So that was a little tricky at first, but once it got going, it was fine. And then towards the middle to the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta know what happens. It was such a great story that I didn't even care about the homonyms. So yeah, basically this story is just about Rose's life with her dad and her dog. This is a really short read. It's a middle grade, so I won't give any spoilers or anything because it was so short, but basically you just follow everything with her dad and the dog. And I loved the bond between Rose and the dog, and her uncle's involved as well. This is such an important read, and from my perspective as an autism mom, I could definitely see where the dad is struggling. You know, I didn't really like his character, but at the same time, I could definitely see where he is struggling. He's frustrated. He needs help. And that's why it's so important as a parent with a child who has special needs. You really need to get help for yourself, and how can you help that child the best you can, and what can be done to help them in any way. And she also was at school, and there was just so many times I could see that from the educational perspective that they needed maybe an IEP or some, like an individual education plan for that child, and like how can she get the best help she needs from the school as well. So, you know, I think a lot of kids... We have a plane overhead. I'm just gonna look at my notes real quick, but we had a lot of important topics in here. Learning about the world from the autistic child's point of view, a struggling, frustrated parent, bullying, love, loss, the importance of getting help for you as the parent and your child in school, and doing the right thing, so much more. So as an autism mom, I really appreciated this story, and Rose's story is going to stick with me for a very long time. So 5 stars. Read this book. Y'all will just be like, oh, I love this book. I'm so thankful that I heard about this book from Oshina at Oshina Gotta Read 'Em All. Y'all, almost every book she talks about, I just love when I read it. So I'm on a good streak here. I trust pretty much anything she reads, honestly. So if y'all ain't following her, go follow her. I'll link her below. Yeah, those are the books that I read in April. I had a pretty good reading month. I stuck to my TBR for the most part, so which is pretty good for me because I never used to do that. I'm really trucking along my way to my goal, so I'm excited about that too. And I'm really excited to read in May. If you've not seen my TBR, check it out up here in the card. Fired up about it. There's so much going on in May. Readathon, everything. Check it out. Learn more in the card. What did you read in May? What did you read in April? What was your favorite book that you read in April? Let me know in the comments below. Have you read any of these books that I talked about today? Let's have a conversation in the comments. I love how we always have conversations in the comments. Y'all are so cool about having comments. Love it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all.